most underrated producers of all time, Part 2, N.O. Joe, also known as Joe Cool. You'd be hard-pressed to find very many producers more important to the history of Southern rap as N.O. Joe. Yet, like Pimp C, who Joe has worked with closely in his career, his name goes unmentioned in a lot of the big hip-hop debates. Although he may not be a familiar face to the newer audience, those that know understand the monumental impact Joe has had on some of the most classic projects in hip-hop history.
You know, as far as like the mixing of those records and stuff, I came from New York, so I was working on, like, you know, SSLs,
yeah,
and, you know, stuff like that, you know. And so when I came there, like, I think they did like the Ghetto Boys, We Can't Be Stopped on an 8-track on the pool table or something.
Damn.
You know what I'm saying? And Jay was like, no, we did that on that. Because I had a 4-track demo of the Ghetto Boys. We did it in Galveston.
Okay.
And I'm like, man, I said, okay, it's, you know, time to go mix it. You know what I'm saying? And it was like, man, it sounds good like this. I'm like, no, man, you know, we got to compete with a lot of people.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So Jay was like, okay, well, so we went to Digital Services where they had an SSL. And those speakers it was for rock music. So I had to go back and forth to the car mixing. So that's why you see my name on there, mixing, production, mastering, because I had to kind of push the, push the narrative. You know what I'm saying? Joe, the snares, it's hurting my ears. Like, don't touch my snare. Don't touch the kick. Like, you know what I'm saying? That type of thing, man. But it was a great experience, man, like, because, you know, we got a chance to really, you know, everybody heard that sound, and then, you know, it changed the South.
N.O. Joe's musical influence was apparent at an early age. Growing up in New Orleans, not only did Joe sing at his church, his mother owned a record store where she would also promote for artists that came into town, such as James Brown and the Jackson 5. Joe would go on to make his own music as well as producing for other local acts. Eventually, Joe would end up playing his beats for a guy who worked at Universal, which was MCA at the time, leading to Joe having to relocate to New York. It was here Joe Cool would get to work closely with Devontae Swing and his production crew, The Basement, contributing to Jodeci's first album, Forever My Lady. He would also work with Brian McKnight, Joe, and D'Angelo.
Ask me, hey, man, you heard that remix? Oh, that's jamming, whatever. Right? And I was like, I did that. So everybody was like, what? Because it was way different.
Yeah.
Than what I was doing at the Ghetto Boys, Scarface, and Big Mike.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But they like with the label, like with the artists, they only wanted certain things. You know what I'm saying? And so I didn't get a chance to really expand my full sound because I do R&B, and that's why you see all those records, D'Angelo, everybody on my wall.
Yeah.
Because it's like the you know, I do a lot of different kinds of music.
Eventually, Joe would move back to the N.O., where he would end up meeting Scarface at the Ghetto Boys at a record store. Joe was actually able to play some of his beats for Big Mello to show to Face. Definitely R.I.P. Big Mello. When Mello heard Joe's sound, he immediately went and got Face.
I was a big fan of Scarface. I used to try to rap like him. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So to hear him over my tracks was just, it was almost unreal. I couldn't believe that, like, I was working with him, and then when he'll take the track, and then I'll hear when he come in the studio and lay it out, I'm like, man, how does dude put these lyrics together like this? Like, man, the way he talked, the way he constructed the lyrics of it, and like the way he told the story, man, was like no other. Yeah. And every time you get in that vocal booth, man, I just smile and be like, man, I can't believe this is happening like this. You know what I'm saying?
This will lead to Joe working closely with Face, as well as the Ghetto Boys and Big Mike. Mike Dean would go on to speak about his experience working in the studio with Joe.
So Scarface played the bass, she played the keys, and then Joe had with the drums?
I mean, we did the whole thing without Joe, and then Joe came in and threw some drums on top of it, you know. Like, we had another beat that was very similar, but it didn't have those crazy sounds that Joe had. You know, and Joe put the jingle bells in there. I gotta give him that. Yeah.
Man.
Joe taught me a lot about producing too, you know, just about sound and, you know, because he had worked in a bunch of big studios in New York, you know, and already had a publishing deal, you know, kind of, you know, knew more about mixing than we did, you know. You could hear our mixes, like if you listen to like Let Me Roll, that's how we used to mix. It sounded like
hella muddy. Yeah.
Pillow over it. But people used to say that was our sound. I'm like, no, I don't want it to be the muddy sound. I want to make that shit sound like the radio, you know.
He also developed a well-known working relationship with UGK, collabing with Pimp C to produce some of their most well-known classics. You name it, Devin the Dude, Ice Cube, LL Cool J, Jay-Z, The Loonies, as well as Master P, Lil Wayne, Rick Ross, Travis Scott, and many more.
You know, get there, man, and you know, AZ, I don't think he really wanted to do the song.
Oh.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
I was like, it's like, hey man, can you give us a second? I was like, I went shopping. You know, I went shopping and came back, and you know, AZ was like, you know, hey man, I got something to it, right?
Yeah.
And so man, AZ, he spit what he had to it. He was like, what you hear on the hook? I said, man, you know, some old school stuff like, you know, like a jungle sometime, right? Like a jungle sometime.
Yeah.
And he was like, the weed smokes make me wonder. And that was the hook. And that was the hook. He played the album because, you know, I'm on there with the greats, Pete Rock,
Come on.
and Easy Mo B, and you know what I'm saying? And I'm like, man, like, I can't believe I'm on this album, you know what I'm saying? And like, he brought a bunch of people, like, you know, his, you know, partners from the hood and everything, and they were all listening to the record.
Yeah.
All the records, you know, everybody's like, you know, the Pete Rock, like, oh, that's bananas. So my song came on, nobody did anything.
What?
It was quiet. And I was like, oh man, I'm going home. I said, they don't understand this music, right? One guy said, yo, son, man, the Pete Rock joint, man, I like that. This right here, this joint right here, Do or Die, yo, son, run that again. Everybody was like, yo, run that again, man. That was like, we couldn't even say nothing. It was it just touched us, right? And they ran it over and over again, right? It was like, man, who the fuck did that track? Like, you know what I'm saying? He was like, you know, Joe, you know, he did Scarface stuff. Man, my arm almost fell off, and it was, oh, son, I feel that, son. I feel that, you know what I'm saying?
Joe is also credited on the soundtrack of multiple well-known movies, such as Friday, Office Space, Original Gangsters, etc. He's also done scoring for multiple TV networks.
I never was that person where I was like, you know, I'm working over here now, and you know, because I was doing stuff with Fox Sports Network. I did all of the scoring on a lot of this stuff. ESPN. Like a lot of the urban music that you heard behind that from like 98 all the way up to 2014.
My God.
Like, you know what I'm saying? I was doing all kind of stuff, but I never was that person where I just like didn't want to work with where I came from, you know what I'm saying? And so anytime, you know, Jake called me, like he said, hey man, you know, Joe, we man, we working on this.
That what, Jay Prince?
Down south.
Yeah.
You know, we gonna need some music, man.
I think it's safe to say that Joe's track record speaks for itself. As a lifelong UGK fan, as well as Scarface, there's no doubt in my mind that N.O. Joe is one of the most important producers, not only in the South, but in hip-hop history. Not to mention his accomplishments in other genres, a career that spans multiple decades. N.O. Joe's influence is still as visible today as it was back in those days, or as Deontay Wilder would say,
to this day,
to this day.
Although a lot of the younger audience may not be familiar with his name, there's a good chance your favorite producer, your favorite rapper, your favorite rapper's favorite rapper is familiar with most of his catalog. But nevertheless, this is why I conclude that N.O. Joe is one of the most underrated producers of all time. Stay solid.